All right, so welcome to our combined event. We've got several different classes in here, and we've got some other people from other entities on campus. But I'd like to welcome our audience, our digital viewers, our panelists, and our special guests. I'll be moderating today's the social psychology of Latino film, creativity, culture, and cinematography. I'd like to thank our sponsors, the Psychology Department, the Latino Faculty and Staff Association, and also OKC Latino Film Festival. I'm Dr. Robert Mather. I'm a professor of psychology and associate dean of the Graduate College here at UCO. I'm a social psychologist by training, and my research is on human behavior. And so persuasion, stereotypes and discrimination, nonverbal behavior, emotions, those are all things that are in my area of expertise. It's always fascinated me that psychology students learn about the science of behavior and they learn about empirical studies. But then, you know, in Hollywood, you've got actors and actresses that are not studying the science of those things. They just have to get it right. If they're authentic and if they can capture those rules of behavior, then they're good. If they can't capture those things, then they're not good. And so it's fascinating to me how they can capture the things that we look at as psychologists and understand those things intuitively. For those of you in social psychology, it's similar to Fritz Heider's intuitive scientist, how we can pick up on those rules on our own, which is why we're able to get along with each other and navigate our social world day to day. So I'm going to ask the panelists questions about their processes of acting, their creative processes, and some questions about the social implications of their work. It's your job as an audience to ask them good questions. Okay, so I'll ask a question and they'll answer. And if you've got a question that you want to ask, just raise your hand and we'll have you ask the question. We want you to be engaged as part of this. It's also your job to apply what you learn in here and what you figure out that they're talking about. Your job is to apply that to the psychology material that you've been learning in your classes. At this time, I'd like to introduce some of our panelists. We've got Rogelio Almeida Jr. here. He's a filmmaker. We've got Edna Garcia, and she's an actress and also a producer. And we've got Guillermo Martinez-Sotelo, who is Associate Professor of Spanish, and he's also a world-renowned expert in Latino cinema. And so he seemed like a perfect person to invite to this panel as well. We're filming this, so we've also got a digital audience that will see this. And so if you ask questions and raise your hand, ask questions, be sure to raise your hand and ask questions loudly enough for the microphone to capture that. At this time, I'll let Rogelio go ahead and show Edna's video clip. Yeah. So we've got a compilation of some of the films that she's been in, and so you watch it and have some type of context for which you might want to ask questions later.
So this is called a demo reel. A lot of actors and actresses, have to make up a demo reel in order for directors or producers, to kind of make sure that they see, some of their work. So it's 10 minutes.
Where is Juan?
Sorry, hon. He was arrested 3 days ago.
Belen, they're deporting him.
No, mi amor. Te quiero.
I'm right here, Jorge. Hotter, younger, better connected. Let this gringo have the cow. I got the milk and the honey. Oh! Face me like the pathetic excuse of a man you are. One on one.
Now that's more like it. No man can outdraw the deaf devil.
I'm no man. We disintegrated all your metals. I guess that includes your belt. Ready to surrender? Death, devil? This is against protocol and you know it. We will see what L1 has to say about this. If it hurt me to disappoint anyone, it was you, L1. But I take back nothing. That's all. I'm looking for a man that does not look away when I speak to him. And I don't like it when he focuses on my body. ¿Me entiende?
Yes.
And I'm also looking for someone low maintenance, eso sí. No baggage from the past. No, señor.
Renata, ¿estás lavando ropa?
Sí, señora.
Ando buscando mi vestido morado y no lo encuentro en ningún lado. ¿No lo has visto?
No, señora. A lo mejor lo mandó a la tintorería. Look at me. I'm going with you guys.
No, you're not. You're here to wish us good luck, and now you're leaving.
You want me to go home? It's empty. You want me to live my life? Marco was my life. Little brat.
All right, so my first question to both Edna and Rogelio, to this in turn, would be for each of you to tell us a little bit about yourself. What's your story?
I'm an independent filmmaker for the past, I want to say like 10, 12 years. We actually go way back. We actually went to film school at the same time I did for filmmaking at OCCC, and she was doing acting at OCCC, so we kind of started on the same time back in 2008 maybe or something like that, 2006, 2008. And we just been, doing film and video ever since. My main focus is filmmaking, but I also have a real job. I actually happen to work here at UCO, so I'm a multimedia specialist by trade, and I've been here at UCO for 6 years now. But my passion, of course, is filmmaking, and about 6 years ago, through filmmaking process, and then just by seeing that there was a need for more Latino voices to be heard here in the state, I started with a couple of friends a Latino Film Festival, and the Oklahoma City Latino Film Festival, which is the first and only Spanish Latino film festival in the state. And we're so lucky also to have Dr. Guillermo to be our lead judge in there, and also now we have Dr. Matra as well in there, who happened to be our judging committee. So, filmmaking, film festivals, and media. That's kind of my thing, my background.
Well, you started making films when you were deployed in Iraq, right?
That's correct, yeah. So I deployed when I was, like about 18, 19 years old, right out of high school, and I started documenting just with a little handycam, Sony handycam recorder, and I started documenting just video over there, interviewing, just when we were going, from town to town.
Thank you. Edna, tell us your story.
I'm originally from El Paso, Texas. My family are from Ciudad Juarez, Chihuahua, and we came here 20 years ago. I went to OCCC. I was gonna, I didn't know what I wanted to do, so I decided to take an acting classes, acting 1, and I fell in love, and my major was theater, and I graduated in 2011. And I got me an agent right after that. In order to get to work as an actor, you have to get an agent in order to get auditions. So that was in 2009, I got the agent. 2011, that's when I graduated. And I've been doing acting for the past 10 years. I've been doing commercials, films, photo shoots, modeling, like family modeling. Voiceover work. I do a lot of voiceover work too. That's all I do right now, just acting. I do a lot of auditions. I submit myself to a bunch of work. It's very hard to book jobs as an actor sometimes, especially when it comes to film. But commercials are pretty much my
what I do the most here in Oklahoma and Texas and anywhere else where they will hire me too.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Guillermo, would you tell us a little bit about how you got into the film?
Into film, the interest in film. I was always film buff. I always liked film. I never actually thought that I could study film for a living until not late in my PhD, but I'm from Mexico, from Sonora, which is the border state with Arizona, and I went to the University of Arizona, go Wildcats, to get my master's and PhD, and I was going to do my PhD in post-colonial studies, but that didn't work out, and there was like a semester that I was sailing through the system, thinking about what I was going to do in my life. Luckily, at that time, there was a hiring kind of wave of specialists in media studies and cultural studies in my department. So I kind of talked to them about my interest in film through my life, and talking to them, the professor who became my mentor, she talked to me and she was like, well, you can combine that and become a specialist in Latin American film with a focus in cultural studies, and that's how film has been used as a tool and in Latin American society, and study film with different theories, performance theories, and that's how I became a specialist.
Well, this question is probably directed more at Edna, but the rest of you all can chime in if you have something to add. One of the things that you all learn about is probably the self-concept, right? So I'm sure that all of the different classes that you've had in psychology have at some point touched on the self. So I guess my question to you is, what does it mean to be an actor and actress, or actress in your case? How do you shift your identity and maintain a core of your self-concept, right? Because you're constantly shifting roles, but you've got to know who you are too.
I honestly, I don't think it's as complicated. A lot of actors make it more depend on how they feel about the character. But I honestly, most of the time, I just play myself in that situation. I don't get, right? Like,
You don't get like into the method acting?
I only get into method acting unless it's a very emotional scene, like the first scene that you saw. Like I get very, like, I don't like to, I just associate myself with that person, and like, what would that person do in that situation? I don't like to pretend. I like to be the realist that I can be when I'm portraying a character. That's all.
So there's a high level of empathy. You seem to empathize with it.
Yes, empathize. It's the main thing when you're an actor. You have to empathize, understand your character. What is their motive? What do you want out of the character to do? And what do you expect too? And it's a lot of psychology. I've always tell people that it's a lot of psychology whenever you get in. Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes you don't understand the character of what they want. But I mean, if you already booked the role and you talk to the director and they explain to you what exactly you want, what exactly they want from you, then I can do that. That's all I do.
So do the skills that you have with empathy, do they translate beyond acting to just everybody you meet?
Yes, of course. Yes. Yes. I mean, the older I get, the more empathy I get for people, like to people, like, you know, like the more I understand human behavior and the better human I am and the better actress I am.
So how do you prepare for a role kind of beyond the empathy part? Do you have to do research, or does it depend on the length of the role?
Sometimes I do have to do some research. Sometimes I have to, when I get a script, I have to read everything, and even the other person's sides. I have to, sometimes when I get coached by somebody, and I think sometimes it's better for somebody else to explain to me, you know, the things that I'm missing. Sometimes it's hard for me to understand. Like at the beginning of my career, I did know English, but I still struggle understanding. And now I'm getting better at it, but yeah, I ask for help. all the time. And sometimes I can do it myself.
So you kind of take, I guess, the director's vision of the character, and then you take, I said, you bring yourself to every role, and so you kind of meet in the middle.
Yes.
Or is it still more?
Or sometimes you got to take a risk. Sometimes if something comes to your mind and you think this will be a great idea to portray this character, that's what I do.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Rogelio, as a filmmaker, how do you capture authentic human behavior? Right. So how do you capture that when you're in your writing? How do you capture that in your production of it? How do you capture that in the way that you convey that vision to an actor and actress?
Going back to kind of what Edna was saying, they say that when you're making a film, 90% of acting is your casting. So when you cast the right actor, and that's what all these films have, casting auditions. You cast for that role, right? So you're looking for that empathy, you're looking for that emotional awareness. You're looking for sensitivity on that character, on that audition. So being able to cast the right actor from the get-go, from the beginning, you have for a lead character, for the main actor or actress, you would have your top 3 choices, and then you sit with your producers, with your executive producer or your friends or whoever's helping you on the film. In my case, it's just a bunch of friends. It's like no budget filmmaking. So we just kind of sit down and go through their emotional stages. Is this scene require this character to be emotional, to be crazy, to be depending on whatever we're looking for. So I would say that getting on that initial casting, that initial reaction, like when you first meet your actors for the first time, or when you already have established relationship with those actors, you already kind of know what buttons to push, for your audition even. Because sometimes you might get notes during the audition. An actor or an actress may come in and be like, this is my performance of what I see on the script. Okay, let's do it, let's do 1 take or 2 takes, how you perceive this character. And then the director may come back and be like, okay, but now let's try this, and now let's try this other way, like trying to push buttons. So then you might get different performances. But just like she said, sometimes the actors come really prepared. They do the research, they know the character, they know where they're coming from and what they're going for. Some actors, when they come to auditions, they come prepared with a whole backstory of that character. Even if you just give them because usually for auditions, you only get 1 page, right? Mm-hmm. You only get 1 page.
Or 2 lines.
And 2 lines, yeah. Sometimes it's just 2 lines, like, hello, hey. And sometimes, actors will come prepared with a whole backstory. Like, okay, yeah, so this character grew up in Texas, got married, like 20 years old, separated by 25. So there's all these things that the character, as the actor, is already preparing on their head, even for the audition. So I love doing those auditions. Those actresses are already prepared and they have a backstory because they show, how much preparedness how much commitment they have for that role, for that character.
Well, you two have worked together before on multiple projects, so clearly you enjoy working with each other.
Yeah.
What are some of the strengths you see in each other in that dynamic?
Well, I think, the other thing that Edna, knowing her, growth, from when we started working in TV commercials, and then we started doing short films, and then we did a feature film. We collaborated as different roles: producer, actress, a script or executive producer in different roles, and you wear multiple hats. When you're an indie filmmaker, you kind of have to do a lot of things. Sometimes I'm behind the camera. Sometimes I'm also, the boom operator. Sometimes I may be, just grabbing water and snacks for the actors. So just, you wear a lot of multiple hats on set. And so knowing Edna from before, it becomes very natural on set. When I know when she's not giving me, her 100%, and I'm able to push that. Okay, this is not, okay, you need to take 5. Let's come back. Let's take 5, and then we'll come back, and then let's do this scene. If I know that it's going to be a very emotional scene, then, like she said, it's the actor's job to come prepared, to come in that emotional state, to get into that emotional, world, with that character. So, I've seen her grow, from very dramatic roles to comedy to psychological thrillers, and it's just fun to be on set. That's the most fun. Like being able to see what you wrote on a script on the page to be actually performed in front of you for the camera. So that's really it's been really fun.
Edna, what are some of his strengths?
Camera work. I love his camera work, and like he say, like the most we met long time ago, and the more years pass, the better he gets. And he's also a very good director because he actually takes your opinion and you matter. Like if you have an idea, he'll take that idea and use it sometimes. And he's really easy to work with. I mean, he listens to everybody. He's super nice. I mean, he pisses me off sometimes, but
if the role calls for it, it helps to make your actors pissed off. You have to push those memories.
He gets on my nerves.
Pushing those buttons to get that performance.
Yeah, but I think one of the reasons I've been able to book a lot of roles has to do a lot with Rogelio. Like when I met him, I was still afraid of the camera. The camera can be very intimidating, and I just didn't know how to act. I knew how to act. I was just so freaked out by it. And Rogelio taught me to be comfortable in front of the camera. And that's a pretty big deal when you're an actor. Like the first couple years, it's hard to ignore it.
Well, I'm sure they appreciate that because they got super quiet when we told them that camera was on, right? And so they all got real quiet.
And you allow me to jump here. This is the part that I work kind of in Latin American film. I work with the construction and reconstruction of consciousness. I work especially in Latin American film after dictatorships, which goes and doesn't go with what you guys are talking about, but it works directly with consciousness and what works in the conscious and the unconscious level, and what you're conscious about when you start being conscious about the camera and what's going to be the length of your words once you're being filmed, and the distribution, and especially now that we are in the era of the internet, and after I drive through a high school not every single day, but when I go pick up my groceries, and it's being up in the sign, and it has a hashtag that said "think before you post," which is the message that high school kids need to learn. But also when you're filming, you are in the first couple of years, you are rethinking or overthinking sometimes when you're acting, because the reach that your words and your acting is going to have. But also in a lot of the work that I do, the scripts that the directors are directing are written by themselves. So that's another level of in the direction
control
of the control. Yeah, it's, as a director, I'm pretty sure that's a different thing that to direct something that you wrote, than to direct something that somebody else wrote. I mean, this is a story that is coming from a place that This is your story. These are your words. And usually, writers they are told to write something that at some level. That's something that's something yours. Yeah. It has something that is yours. So when you're directing it and you are acting it, you are acting a part of Rogelio, and you have an idea, a very specific idea of how you wanted to see it represented. But if I wrote it and you're directing it and she's acting it, that's another level of direction, of disconnection. I don't know if there's a question that you might...
No, and to make it authentic, right, to have authentic human behavior really capture that, the person who writes it has to get it right, and then the director has to get it right, and the producer, and the actor and actresses, right, they all have to get it right, or else the whole thing doesn't work.
And everybody has a different vision of it.
Right.
So there's a saying in the filmmaking world is like that you have a script, but you actually make 3 movies out of that script. The script that you write, the script that you direct, and then the script that you edit.
Yeah.
You may end up with a different film than what you wrote.
Yeah, well, and that's similar to what we see. You know, I tell young teachers all the time. I say, you know, they don't. The class doesn't know how it's supposed to go in your head. I tell people that when I interview other people too. I say, you know, they don't know how it's supposed to go in your head. So what seems right or wrong to you isn't necessarily the thing. It was that final product good. I guess. So getting into a little bit of the creative process, and this kind of goes for all of you. You know, like give you an example as a writer. I have to have complete silence when I write. I can't even have people in the house. Even knowing someone is upstairs in the house, that they could make a noise or come down and interrupt me, I have divided attention at that point. I'm contemplating something else that could interrupt me. So to be fully attentive to my writing, I've got to be completely locked in, no one around. You know, what are your creative processes like? How do you develop your creative ideas?
Me?
I guess.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, same thing. I don't like people interrupting me. Like, especially when I'm studying, it's hard to focus.
I'm the complete opposite. Like, I have to have noise. It's weird, I know, but I have to have either, I usually play like a soundtrack. Like, I'll have like, you know, Hans Zimmer or like, you know, Justin Hurwitz, something. I had to have some noise in the background to be able to come up with this. And also, you know, that gives me kind of, you know, just more noise in my head, you know, to bounce ideas with myself. I don't know if that sounds a little bit weird, but you have to have, I sometimes I'll be in a room and I'll be talking to myself out loud to be able to see how does that, would somebody say this line like this? Oh no, yeah. So then I have to repeat myself. And I'll be pacing around and I'll be like, okay, yeah, that doesn't really make sense. But then with the music in the background, that also makes it seem like I'm in a movie. So I don't know, it's just a different part.
And Edna thinks you're crazy for having music while you're trying to do this.
We all do, Brian.
Right, but it works. I have a lot of
For talking to yourself and answering.
I mean, I talk to myself all the time.
Yeah.
That could be a whole different psychological issue.
Probably need to do a diagnosis.
Some office hours, but later on.
Is it different for writing versus producing? I would assume writing you've got to be a little bit more focused, and producing you're kind of developing things maybe on the fly a little bit.
Yeah, I guess, you know, from producing, like when we, because we also produce some stuff together, and I think when we're producing, it's more administrative, more, you know, managerial, because you have to, you know, like find locations, you have to find your extras, you have to find your wardrobe, you have to find food, you have to find, you know, and there's always things that are changing. You know, you may be filming at a location, and we've run into this many times, you know, that we show up to a location and then it turns out that we don't actually have permission to film there, so then we have to look for plan B. So, you know, all these things, you know, it's more administrative, more the actual production side of things than acting. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Then once you actually start filming, then that's when you can focus, and everybody's like quiet on the set, and then we become part of that world. You know, everybody, you know, has to be focused. You know, like your cinematographer, you know, your boom operator, your, you know, script supervisor, you know, your focus puller. You know, everybody has to be, you know, on their game when it comes to, you know, the actual filming of that scene.
Yeah, if you want me to jump in that, this is a quote from one of my friends in college who wanted to work for a production company. So I've been around film people since I was young, and he was a location scout for a production company in Mexico City, in the northwest of Mexico, and we were visiting a couple of years ago, and we were talking about film, of course, and he's like, yeah, sure, it is called the seventh art, you know, because it's a modern form of art, but he told me, but it is also called the industry of film, the film industry, and if there is no budget, you can call off the seventh art because of this, because it's a business, and it is one of the businesses that if your budget doesn't adjust, or if you go off budget, or if you don't sell the product, or if once the movie premieres, you know, is a complete bust, or all those things affect directly the product, and eventually the product that you want to sell. So it is a very capitalist form of art, or the most capitalist, I would say.
Even the market itself, like how many films have bombed at the box office because they have their own marketing campaign? I mean, it goes all the way from script to screen, but then also nowadays, you know, social media and marketing. You know, it's so much that goes into it. It's an industry.
Or how many bad movies we all have gone and watched because they had the right marketing. I mean, we all are guilty of it. I mean, without making the 9, not Fast and Furious. The 9th one. Jesus Christ.
Do you have any questions so far? I keep looking for hands, but I haven't seen any come up so far.
Yeah, feel free to raise your hand at any point.
Do you want to show the next video?
Yeah.
We're going to show another video clip,
Getting
and
the
then
lights.
we'll go back to some more questions.
So I'm going to show you a few my clips, some of my short films. Some of these with Edna, some of them with other actors. Some of them I've written myself, some of them I've written with another friend, my friend Victor, who couldn't be here today. He sends his apologies. But I'll show you some of these clips and then we can talk about it. At the very end, there's a trailer of our latest film that it's been 3 years in the making. It's just a short film. It's a short film. It took us like 7 days to film and 3 years to post-produce. So that's at the end of this video. So hope you guys enjoy it.
Bueno. Hola, amor. ¿Cómo estás? Yo bien. Te marco más tarde cuando pueda, ¿ok? Ok. Besos. Te amo. Bye.
Renata, quería escuchar tu voz.
Señora Isabela. Sí. Hoy llegué temprano.
Oh, qué bueno, qué bueno. Félix, como siempre, está trabajando y yo tengo cosas muy importantes que hacer el día de hoy. Voy a llevar a Prince William a hacerse un manicure, pedicure. Voy a dejarlo tan lindo. Tú, por favor, encárgate de todo en la casa. Que todo esté en orden, por favor. Y para cenar me gustaría un mondongo. Prepara las verduras y un mofonguito por el lado, por favor.
Sí,
y
señor.
por favor, aprende a hacer arroz con gandules. Ay, por Dios. Prince William, ya nos vamos de fiesta, mi amor. Te voy a llevar a hacerte tu manicura y a ponerte bien bonito. Mi Prince William, te amo, mi amor.
El dinero para la operación de mi mamá lo tenemos que tener listo esta semana. Mi cheque sale este viernes para que vayas juntando no sé de dónde, para que tan siquiera me ayudes con la mitad.
Bueno, ya, ¿no? Yo a ver cómo lo consigo, ya lárgate a trabajar.
Te pasas en serio, ¿eh?
Hijo.
¿Cómo amaneció hoy, ma?
Bien, bien, hijo.
¿Cómo se siente de sus rodillas?
Estoy mejor. Estoy bien, gracias.
No, tranquila, ma. Voy a salir, no me tardo. Cualquier cosa, márqueme al celular, por favor.
Está bien.
La quiero mucho, ma.
Yo también te quiero mucho, hijo.
My name is Peter, and I have moderate to severe autism. So how am I talking to you so fluidly? Well, in my head, my thoughts are clear, and I have so many things that I want to say, so much love that I want to show. In fact, I am told that autistic people are more intelligent than the average person. It's just that our wiring makes it hard to convey what's inside. If only people would listen, I think that they'd be able to understand.
Mom, you need to rest. You've been going nonstop with this.
Oh, Ellen, I found something. An autistic boy found painting on the streets of New York. Maybe Peter?
Anybody could be Peter, Mom. Any autistic kid can paint.
But Peter was a painter, and he could be anywhere. I just feel like maybe Peter...
Peter! Stop saying his name! God, for as long as I can remember, it's always been about him! Some phantom brother that I've never known. He preserved his room as if he's still here. He's not here, Mom. Take a look around. He's never coming back. This is the reason Dad left us.
True or false?
I'm finding a way to get us out of here, to go back home.
False. I will never see my family again.
The world is up in arms, all the pieces falling apart.
It doesn't help that you treat her like a child. She is a child. Quit sheltering her. The others are starting to notice.
Am I gonna swim? Am I gonna sing? Am I gonna bend? Am I gonna break? Or will I make it out alive? Make it out
We have to make the best with what we have.
I won't settle I'm 7, and you shouldn't either.
Will I make it out alive? Make it out alive.
Hit the lights, maybe. Thank you.
Before we go back into more panel questions, do you all have questions for them? Comments or questions about any of the movie clips you've seen?
Don't be shy.
Yes.
This is for Edna. What's your favorite genre to do, like, for films?
I like comedy. Comedy. And then drama.
I'm a theater performance major, and I was wondering, like, when you were a theater major, obviously, were you doing films while you were in college, or were you maybe just doing shows, or, and like, what are the differences between those? Like doing on stage performance, for example, like live theater versus doing film.
I've only done one thing for theater in Spanish. I just took classes and got a degree, but I never was required to do theater. They actually, my film and commercials got me to graduate, which I thought it was kind of silly because I always wanted to do theater, but I struggle a lot with English, so I couldn't get myself. I will audition, but I will never make it. But I don't know. Like, I really want to go do theater too.
Yeah.
But most of my friends have done theater, and then they move to film, and then you don't have time to go back and do theater. So, have you ever done film?
No, I haven't.
Would you like to do it?
I'm interested in it. I've never done it, so I want to. Yeah.
Yeah, I know the acting is different.
Yeah.
It's toned down from theater because I have worked with theater people, and that's one of the things, you come and bring it all, and it's too much for the camera.
Yeah.
And yeah, you have to, yeah. So it's completely different. Like when you're in theater, you move too much. And whenever, I've never did theater, but whenever I started doing acting, I would move too much, express myself too much. And you look yourself in the camera and you're, oh wow, I look bad. I look stupid because you're doing this.
Yeah.
And you just have to do this like little movements. It's totally different. Yes, so everything, like even your face movements can be too much. Even in one of her films, it's still like when I'm talking to my brother and I'm yelling to him, I've moved too much. That's the difference between theater and camera. You cannot move too much,
So we saw the toned down version of you?
Yes, oh yeah, when I'm in front of, I actually got to the point where I know how I look in front of the camera. Like I know when I'm acting, I know how I will look in the camera or like later on.
Which is a tremendous perspective taking, right? And the feedback you get from watching yourself on video.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Good question. Other questions?
What do you think is the most difficult part about translating like real human emotion on screen?
is there a difficulty like making it translate from like you feel it in yourself, or maybe you're a little disconnected from the emotion, but how do you get it to the final product to where the audience will relate to it?
I think repetition. Like sometimes 1, 2 takes won't do the job. I think the more I do it, the more I do it, the more I get into the character. And frustration too. It can work.
In your favor.
Huh?
Frustration can work in your favor.
Yeah, it can work in your favor. Yeah.
I do have a question. Does that work for all emotions? Like if you're doing a happy scene and it does not working out, the repetition works in your favor?
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes if the director is not feeling it, they will tell me how to do it differently. So, yeah. You have to be, like, when you go to set and whenever you're going to play a character, you have to leave everything behind. All the problems, anything that happened 5 minutes ago, whatever it happened, you have to let it go and focus on whatever you're doing. That's what, not all the time, I mean, not every time I do acting, I get whatever I wanted to, is that a word? No, okay. Like, you know what I wanted to portray. I don't get it sometimes, and that's frustrating. But whatever, they hire me, and sometimes it's you. Sometimes you feel like you're not able to do it, but then you think, well, they cast me for this role, so maybe that's enough for me to know that I can do it. So that's good.
And it is the director's job to get that performance out of the actors. Because once you cast an actor, you can uncast them.
Yeah, I mean you can.
Well, you have to reshoot.
Yeah. And it happens, they will recast.
Yeah,
especially if it's a big TV show, they will recast.
That's true. Or they just delete the scene and nobody will know that actor was ever in that film.
And there are many cases about that. There is a 1990s huge Abre los Ojos with white eyes wide open.
Open your eyes.
Open your eyes. They did it with Tom Cruise. The original one is Spanish. They were able to empty Madrid. They asked the city to do the main street in Madrid, to empty it. They needed to do one shot. The guy was going to be running away from the camera, and they told him, do not turn around, because if we have to reshoot this with somebody else and it cannot be you in a year or whatever, do not turn around. And then the city told the director they only had the street, they only could hold traffic for half an hour. That's all they had. And the guy is running, and you can see that it takes 5 steps, and he's like,
don't recast me.
Exactly, you're not gonna recast. If you do it in a year, you'll have to cast me again.
It's smart acting.
Yeah, exactly. But with those things,
an actor's gotta do what an actor's gotta do.
Other questions?
Do you ever work with people who didn't necessarily major or get their doctorate in any kind of film or theater, but who are like lawyers or doctors, or who just have a passion for it?
Is that
for everyone?
For everyone.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the people that we work with, especially in the Latino community, which is kind of my main focus of filmmaking, a lot of them never gone to film school, they never gone to acting school. And as a director, I work with a lot of non-actors, and you as actors have to work with non-actors.
And as an actor, you don't have to have a degree.
Yeah.
But it does really help if you do, and also if you take acting classes.
Yeah.
And you have to, otherwise you're not.
There's, and Dr. Guillermo can touch a lot more in depth about this, but there's this whole wave of Italian cinema, of cinema verite, back in the 50s and 60s, where directors would go out and cast real people for their films because they wanted that realistic look and feel, and they would, and some filmmakers still do that to this day. Now, I don't know, did anybody saw Roma last year? Roma on Netflix? No, anybody? Nobody saw Roma? What? That's crazy.
The main actress was not.
She was a non-actress. She was nominated for an Oscar. So they got a lot of actresses too that get nominated for Oscars without being time. So there's many
It
instances.
does help though if you have a degree though.
Innocent Voices, that deals, Voces Inocentes, that deals with the civil wars in Central America, Honduras specifically, or El Salvador, I believe. And it's a film from the early 2000s. From the point of view of these children soldiers, and all the children they are non-actors. Yeah. And they cast them specifically for that purpose. But also the director used kind of a very dramatic method. Yeah, he yelled at the children every single when he needed emotional scenes from them. And then he'll be like, okay, let's shoot the scene, and then he will like give them prizes like, Xboxes and PlayStation. I was like, it's okay, so I didn't mean to. And then he'll do it again.
Wouldn't that be like child abuse?
Yeah,
kind of?
basically, yeah. But I guess the parent, and again, this was Mexico, Honduras, so
Yeah, you can get away with
you can get away with those kind of things.
Yeah.
I mean, in the long run, if you get cast in a movie without experience, that was luck. And then in order to actually keep booking jobs, you have to have some kind of education.
So it comes down to casting. If you make a really good audition, then you may get lucky and get cast without even having acting experience.
Yeah.
Well, I've got a question for you all. So, what is your perception of how Latinos are treated in the movie industry? What do you think their roles or portrayals tend to be?
Very stereotypical.
It was whenever I started doing acting back 10 years ago. It was like either the maid, the immigrant mother, the female companion, the exotic dancer.
The exotic dancer.
Yeah, everything that is like never a lawyer, doctor, nurse. Now you can see more Hispanic actors in television. It's still just only a few, but it's better than it used to be before. So yeah, there's a lot of, I think Hollywood's trying little by little too, but still they have a long way to go.
And not just Hollywood, commercials too. How would that?
Oh, yeah, I actually did one commercial. One of my favorite, I auditioned for 2 years when I started doing acting, and I wouldn't book anything, right? And then I auditioned for this role as a mom, and I was having a baby. And that was my first official booking after 2 years of doing acting without booking anything. And I did that. I was so excited after that. I started booking a lot of jobs, blah, blah, blah. Then I started working with the production company, that gave me the first commercial. And the director told me that she actually had to convince the producers, the boss, everybody to book me.
The money people.
Because they wanted to go with the white person, and they didn't want to go there just yet. And it was for a big commercial for Oklahoma. And she was like, no, we need a Hispanic woman. We need a Hispanic. Please just do Hispanic. And she's a visionary. She knew that eventually that.
Visionary.
Yeah, visionary. So.
Which company was this?
I'm not gonna talk about it.
I think I know which one.
It's one of the biggest ones in Oklahoma. But she told me just a few months ago, she told me, do you know I had to actually tell them and fight for you to book this role? I was like, what? She's like, yeah. I was like, well, thank you, because that role gave me the confidence to book more jobs. And that's when I started to book more jobs after that. So, I mean, even though it was one out of the 100 commercials they did, it did have an effect on me, and as a Hispanic actress. And I thought, yeah, that's
amazing.
And if you, let me jump in that one as well. And you still can see in a lot of the movies and the TV shows that we have. For example, if you go and see, talking about stereotypes, if you watch Mayans in the FX, I've been watching it, and hate it, but because it just portrays a lot of the baddest, just a lot of stereotypes. Not because there are not Hispanic motorcycle gangs, there probably are, just the stereotypes that they portray. But also you have Jane the Virgin in the other side. But also it doesn't have to only, it doesn't have to do only with who's acting, but also who are producing these shows. Salma Hayek, for example, she came to work as an actress to the US a long time ago, and she still acts a little bit, but she moved into production a long time ago. She comes from a very wealthy family in Mexico, and she knew that if she wanted to start changing stereotypes, she had to move from acting into production. And Sofia Vergara runs with another actress, I can't remember her name right now, with another actress, the most powerful production company, Hispanic-run production company in LA, and they're booking and they're behind a lot of these newer shows that are portraying Hispanics and Latinos in a different light in the present as well. So it has a lot to do with directors as well. But also it got to do a lot with with the money people, who's going to be financing these shows as well. And of course, your Netflix, my Netflix, they work under the math, what is it called? The
analytics.
The analytics. And the more Hispanic shows, the more Hispanic movies you watch, the more it's going to throw at you. So basically mine is just a mesh of Hispanic and...
That's why there's Tyler Perry too, because of all the,
well, exactly,
you know, Tyler Perry opened his own production, studio.
And he opened it in Atlanta, so a lot of the business are going to go to Georgia now.
So it's the same, we all have to do the same thing, like Hispanics, in order to, because you cannot depend on Hollywood, in order to give us opportunities, you have to make the opportunities yourself.
Yeah, that's right.
I've got one more question I want to get while Rogelio is still able to be with us.
I have to run here a little bit, but I love you guys, all of you.
So, and I would like the questions for all three of you, but I'd like you to answer first. You know, what did it? You know, you had a movie that was the first foreign titled winner of Dead Center. Right?
Spanish.
Yeah. And so, you know, what did it mean for the film Parasite to win an Oscar this year?
Oh my God, I love Parasite. I think that could have been Roma, which you guys didn't see obviously last year, but I think Parasite definitely. It was I think not only for South Korea, but for the whole independent film community, because that film was made with a very, very low budget for Hollywood standards, and so that opens up a lot of doors for future filmmakers that want to get into filmmaking, to get into independent filmmaking, because you got to start somewhere. You got to start making films, independent films. And eventually, once you get a good director, I'm sure now. The director of Parasite is going to have a ton of contracts just lined up, all his team, everybody who's behind the camera, the script, and the producers, all the actors. Now they are at a different level of filmmaking, and so getting an Oscar definitely gives you a lot of recognition worldwide. So I think it's amazing that now the Academy, which has got a lot of controversy in the past, it's recognizing these films, and it's the first time that a foreign language film wins foreign language or now international film, and also Best Picture and Best Director all at the same time. Alfonso Cuarón was this close last year to winning Best Picture, but he didn't. He did win the Best Director and Best Foreign Language Film, and also Best Cinematography, but he didn't win Best Picture. But so there's a give and take, but this is changing the industry.
Thank you. Other perspectives or thoughts?
I didn't watch Parasite.
I love what the directors say. When we get past the 2 inches of subtitles, we can open ourselves to a whole new world of perspectives.
Yeah.
In films. Yes.
Well, the last question, I guess, we can kind of wrap this up, would be for all three of you. Kind of what major projects do you have coming up?
We have a ton of projects, right?
No. No, I have
Queens.
I have Queens, yeah, that's coming out.
Yeah,
And
so the trailer. What do you guys think about the trailer? Yes, no, maybe, and we're still kind of. Yeah, you like it?
it's really good, actually. I like it.
We're gonna be
I
submitted
just
to.
saw it. Well, I saw it before, but a long time ago.
Yeah, and so that film's been in the process for 3 years, and we actually had to reshoot a lot of the audio lines, so that's called ADR, after dialogue recording. So after you film, and then the audio is really crappy, we go back into my home studio, closet, and then just record the voices. And yeah, we just redo all the voices, and we're trying to meet this deadline for Dead Center. Have you guys heard of Dead Center Film Festival? No, anybody?
No.
Dead Center Film
It's one
Festival.
of the biggest Dead
It's
Center,
the biggest
like,
in
film
Oklahoma
festivals.
City, yeah. And it's coming on their 20th anniversary, and it's gonna be on June, and we're hoping that Queens premieres, we do the world premiere. This is like a huge thing in filmmaking. Now, if you get to have your film have a world premiere at a prime festival like Dead Center, it talks really good about your film. And so so we have Queens in the works right now, and I'm also working with Victor, who also couldn't be here, on a few other projects. We have another film in post-production. It's called Defiance, which is also part of this whole bounty saga. We call it the Bountyverse, which all these films are connected, and that's been in most of them, right? It's like 6 of them now, and so Queens is kind of like the first chapter. So we filmed it after maybe 6 years later. It's kind of the first one of the saga. So it's like
Star Wars, but
way low budget. Back here. So so that's that, and then we're finally going to be working on our first horror film. So I've never done horror, so that's going to be interesting. Victor, again, he's writing this film, and I'm going to be co-writing with him. So, stay tuned for. It's called La Familia, the family.
Or I read it somewhere, the most complicated film genre.
It's horror, it's sci-fi. So
why do you think horror is the most complicated?
I don't know. I read it.
That has to get into the psychology.
Because you have to.
It can be cheesy.
Because it can be cheesy, and it can be easy to scare, like just jump scares.
Yeah.
But it has to be psychologically engaging. You have to trap the audience, and you have to be able to build into that scare. It doesn't have. It cannot be just jump scare.
So you got to draw them in and lead them along where you want them.
Exactly. You have to draw them until a place where they actually are horrified. They are scared of what might happen,
and then violate their expectations.
They have to be invested. They have to be invested in those characters.
They have to be invested in the character, and they have to be truly scared for what might happen to the character, and when the character, dies or saves themselves, they have to feel that cathartic experience. They have to feel relief, or they have to feel really, really bad. So they have to be angry at the movie, or they have to be relieved because the character escaped. And if the character escaped, then you have grounds for the second part. Something like that.
Some of my best scary films in the past few years is Hereditary. Have you already seen that? Hereditary, Midsommar. Those two is broad daylight horror film. Is like bright and shiny, but it's so scary because it's so psychological. Yeah.
Well, what advice do you all have? I mean, I would assume that at least 2 or 3 of these people have hopes and dreams, right? That they want to do something big in their lives. What advice do you have to them?
Don't graduate, stay in school forever.
Go to film festivals. Shameful plug, March 6th, Oklahoma City Latino Film Festival. You guys are in town. It's the first and only Latino Film Festival, like I said earlier, March 6th.
People come from other countries, other states to bring their movies and show it to other people.
7 or 9 different countries have some movies.
Yeah. So it's all in Spanish or English, of course. We have some films in English too, but most of them are in Spanish with English subtitles, of course. So March 6th, if you guys are interested in film festivals, it's the best way to meet filmmakers. If you guys want to get into the film business, from casting agents to producers to makeup and hair and wardrobe and cinematography, audio. Film has a job for you.
And just in the same kind of area. If you have the scratch of doing film, you have the doubt, and not only film but anything that you want to do, this is the time of doing it. While you are in college, just right after college, when you don't have that many responsibilities, when you don't have when you don't have a huge mortgage, maybe a couple of you do.
I used to be stressed out in college all the time.
But I did a couple of short films when I was in grad school, for example. They are horrible. I never showed them to you, but I know what it takes to do a short film. I know what Rogelio has to go through, so I can judge this film. So I can, with knowledge of what the filmmakers have to go through. When I read about film, when I write about film. I actually have a little bit of knowledge of what the process is, the pre-production, the filming, the post-production. So it doesn't have to be about film, but if you might be a psych major, you could be a forensic science major, but if you want to do something outside of that realm, go ahead and do it. Do not let that what if, just simmer there.
All right, well, thank you to our panel, and thank you to our audience and our viewers.